Dear boomers, did you know that your tone of voice says everything anyone ever needs to know about you? Have you ever had someone say the right words, the seemingly right words to you, but something about the way they said them made you feel small, dismissed, or even wounded? Or have you ever had someone say something simple, maybe only a few words, but their tone made you feel safe, and they made you feel respected, loved, and seen? This is the power of the tone of voice. Today, I want to talk about something we often overlook. It's the emotional message underneath our words. We had a discussion about this on the Dear Boomer community yesterday, and it was very insightful and meaningful. Because sometimes it is not what we say that causes the deepest impact. It is how we say it. That's an old cliche, but it means a lot. Our tone of voice can comfort, it can encourage, and it can bless. It can invite someone closer. But our tone can also shame, it can dismiss, it can intimidate, and it can shut someone down before the conversation even begins. So this takes tremendous awareness. We have to be aware of what we say and how we say it. And it doesn't really matter what other people say and how they say it. It's only your responsibility as how you think. And at many times we are not even aware of what our tone is carrying. For boomers and seniors, this subject matters deeply. Many of us grew up in families where tone was everything. Maybe a parent did not have to yell. Maybe all they had to do was use a certain tone, and we knew we were in trouble. We knew to be quiet. We knew not to ask questions. And we knew to make ourselves smaller and try to become invisible. Some of us learned early that love could sound impatient. Authority could sound harsh, and correction could sound humiliating. Silence could sound dangerous. And then over time, we may have carried some of those patterns forward without meaning to, because we were unconscious. We did not become aware. We may have used a sharp tone with our children. We may have sounded dismissive with a spouse. And we may have become impatient with a friend. We may have used a tone with ourselves that we would never use with someone we love. Because tone is not only something we use with others. Tone is also something we use internally. How we speak to ourselves, self-talk as it's commonly used. And what is the tone of your inner voice? Is it kind? Is it patient? Is it forgiving? Or does it sound like criticism, pressure, fear, and disappointment? The more goals we set for ourselves, the more we may be lashing ourselves with guilt. And many people spend their whole lives listening to an inner voice that says, "You should have known better. You're too old. You missed your chance. You're not good enough. You always mess things up." And then we wonder why we feel tired, discouraged, or disconnected from our own spirit. These things are all interconnected. The tone of the inner voice matters because the nervous system is always listening. It's always on the alert. A harsh inner voice creates tension. A compassionate inner voice creates space. A judgmental inner voice creates shame. And a loving inner voice creates healing. This is not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about being fake or sugary or avoiding difficult conversations. Truth can be spoken clearly. Boundaries can be stated firmly and lovingly. Disagreements can be honest and not harsh, but the truth does not need cruelty in order to be powerful. In fact, the opposite happens. Cruelty is a dictatorial, authoritarian manner of communication. In fact, the most powerful truth is often spoken calmly. Think about the people who have influenced you most deeply. Were they always the loudest? Were they always the most forceful? Probably not. Often the people we remember are the ones who made us feel safe enough to become more honest. They had a tone that said, I am here, I am listening, you matter. That is healing. And it's like a spiritual practice. It takes work, but it can be playful. Because when you find yourself speaking in a harsh tone to yourself or to others, you can immediately say, I am sorry. And in a world that often feels harsh, rushed, and reactive, a gentle tone can be a radical act. Now, this does not mean we never get upset, because we are human. We lose patience, we react, we get tired, we feel hurt, and sometimes our tone comes out of us before we have had time to think. And that's the point. We have to think and create a tone that matches love. But awareness is the beginning of change, as we all know. One of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is, what did my tone just communicate? Not only were my words accurate, but did my tone match the love I want to offer this person? Did my tone match the respect I want to give? And did my tone match the person I am trying so hard to become? And maybe we shouldn't try so hard. Maybe we should just become the person we want to be through our tone of voice. Because tone reveals what is happening beneath the surface. Sometimes a sharp tone says, I am overwhelmed. Sometimes a sarcastic tone says, I am hurt. And sometimes a cold tone says, I am protecting myself. Sometimes a controlling tone says, I am afraid. And mostly, I am afraid is what lies underneath most of our knee-jerk reactions. So instead of judging ourselves harshly, we can become curious. What is underneath this tone? What am I really feeling? What do I need to pause and tend to before I speak again? This is especially important in families, because the family system is what we all are growing up in, and how we have children and they are growing up in. And so many families carry decades of unspoken pain. Adult children and aging parents may love each other very deeply, but still speak to each other through old wounds. One person hears a tone from 30 years ago. Another person reacts to a tone from childhood. And suddenly the conversation is no longer about the present moment. It is about all the old pain the tone has awakened. That's what it's like when you go back to your home for Christmas or Thanksgiving or any holiday and you're confronted with these old wounds. This is why a softer tone can become a doorway. A softer tone says, I do not want to keep repeating the old pattern. A softer tone says, I want to speak to you differently now. And a softer tone says, I am willing to choose love over being right, love over fear, and just choosing love all the time. And let me be clear, soft does not mean weakness. Soft means being malleable, being willing to change, going with the flow. And a calm tone can be very strong. You can say, I cannot discuss this if we are yelling. I need a moment before I respond. I love you, but I do not need to accept being spoken to that way. I want to understand you, but I need us both to slow down. And that's another thing. People are so revved up and going so fast that they have no idea what they are even doing or what they are saying. This is not weakness. This is maturity. Tone is also powerful in caregiving, friendship, marriage, and community. As a nurse for many years, I learned that people often remember how you made them feel more than the exact words that you used. And that's true not just as a nurse, but of every one of us as we get older, especially. A frightened patient, a grieving family member, a confused elder, they are listening not only to your instructions, but to your tone of voice. Think about that. Does your voice say, "You are a burden," or does it say, "You are safe with me"? Does your voice say, "Hurry up, hurry up"? Or does it say, "I will meet you where you are"? That is important. Our tone can become medicine. And that's a very important thing because it's healing. The tone of voice is healing and can be tremendously calming. And we all need to know that medicine right now, that's the medicine we need. We are living in a time when public conversation has become coarse. People interrupt. People insult. People mock. People react before they reflect. And we hear tones of contempt everywhere. Television, online, politics, and comment sections, sometimes even in our own homes. By the way, please subscribe to this channel, and I can continue doing what I do by your support. But we do not have to add to the noise. We can choose another way. We can choose to become people whose voices make others feel more human, not less human. That begins in small moments, very small, ordinary moments. Before you answer the phone, pause. Before you respond to a text, breathe. And before you correct someone, soften your body. Before you speak to yourself in the morning, listen to the tone you are using. And ask these questions. Number 1, would I speak this way to someone I love? Would I want to be spoken to in this way? Is my tone building a bridge or building a wall? These are questions that we can ask any time we open our mouths to speak. And when you get it wrong, because we all do, you just repair it. You become aware. You become conscious, and you breathe. Breathing helps the consciousness very much. Now, repair is one of the most beautiful things we can offer. You can say, "I'm sorry, my tone was sharper than I intended. Let me try that again. I was frustrated, but I did not mean to sound dismissive or harsh or unloving. You deserve a kinder response." Now, these words can change everything. And they do if you use these words. Because repair tells the other person, our connection matters more than my pride. And maybe today, we can also repair the tone we use with ourselves. Maybe we can say the following: I have been hard on myself long enough. I am still learning. I can begin again. I do not need to attack myself in order to grow. And in fact, the less I attack myself and nurture myself, I am open to the growth that is possible. And I can speak to myself with mercy. This is a spiritual practice hidden inside the tone of voice. It is the practice of becoming conscious before we speak. And maybe we will learn not to speak so much and listen. It is the practice of letting love shape the sound of our words. And it is the practice of remembering that every conversation is an opportunity to wound, to defend, to defend, to dominate, or to bless, to connect, and to heal. The tone of voice is so often overlooked in the way people perceive their lives, because the tone of voice says it all. It tells people whether your heart is open or whether your heart is closed. It tells people whether they are safe or judged, and it tells people whether you are listening or simply waiting to speak. And most importantly, your tone tells you where you are within yourself. So today, I invite you to notice, wake up. But notice the tone you use with others, and notice the tone you use with yourself. And notice when your voice tightens. Notice when it softens. Notice what happens when you pause between speaking, before speaking and between speaking. And perhaps ask this simple question: can love be heard in my voice? Not perfection, not performance, not pretending. It's the real thing. Just love, that's all. Love can be reflected in your tone of voice, because in the end, the words matter too. But the tone carries the heart, and the heart is what people remember. If this message resonates with you, please subscribe, and I invite you to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And have you noticed that your tone of voice speaks volumes about you and about your life and your love and your safety and your lack of fear? And as always, may we keep becoming more human together. Namaste.